Hey guys, it's Troy. Welcome to another video. Your solitude is either your prison or your forge. Your solitude is either your prison or your forge. First off, I appreciate the lighting here may not be ideal, but I'll be completely honest, it's really cold outside. So I thought I'd sit in here for a bit and just record some thoughts rather on this subject matter, which is really important because solitude, being alone, being single, whatever, you know, it can go two ways. It's either going to be a prison for you, or it's going to be somewhere where you draw strength and you forge your new identity, okay? So obviously you've got to regard it as being the latter. I've done quite a number of videos just recently talking about solitude, talking about being alone, being single, all that kind of thing, and the power that can be drawn from it, and how it can actually be a place where, rather than a place of victimhood and a place of, oh, pour me another drink, you know, type thing, it's actually somewhere where you can recuperate and rebuild and reform yourself into something else, into the guy that you were possibly meant to be. Now, this also dovetails with, I just received an email from a guy who I'm working with at the moment, and like with many clients, you know, his ultimate aim is to find a girlfriend, okay? You know, he wants to find a girlfriend, and I asked him why he wanted, you know, to get a girlfriend so badly, and he said something like, sorry, I'm not laughing at him, but it's just some of the mental tricks we play on ourselves. He said something like, well, I want to impress my friends. And I mean, it goes without saying that is absolutely the worst reason to want to get a girlfriend in the history of reasons, okay? I mean, it's just, you know, for a start, who cares what other people think anyway, right? Who cares what your friends think? And if you're hanging around with a bunch of friends who are going to be impressed by the fact that you have a girlfriend, then that in itself suggests to me that you're hanging around with some pretty low value guys, because getting a girlfriend should not be really an impressive feat, okay? This isn't like winning the Olympics or something. This is just pretty normal human stuff, okay? Not discounting the fact that obviously people have difficulties with relationships, and that's why we're here. That's why I'm here to try and help. But yeah, I mean, look, doing anything to impress other people is a bad idea. Getting into a relationship with another human being in order to impress other people is a particularly bad idea, because getting into a relationship in itself is a problematic endeavor, okay? Relationships are not easy. Relationships are not this nirvana that they're made out to be online, okay? Actually, relationships can bring with them as many problems as they solve, if not more, okay? Because it's just a completely different state. You're no longer on your own. You know, like if you're a single guy, what do you need to worry about really? Well, you've got to put a roof over your head, you've got to have some food to eat, you've got to pay for your transport and expenses and whatever else. And that's kind of it really, you know. And you can scale that up or down. You know, you can think, well, okay, the budget's a bit tight this month, so I'm gonna scale things back. You know, I'm gonna stay at home, I'm gonna watch movies, but I'm gonna have a great time anyway, regardless. All right. When you're in a relationship, you've got a girlfriend, all of that changes because now suddenly you're not operating as an individual, you're operating as one half of a sort of a double act, you know, this new entity that's been created, and she's going to have expectations, you know. She's going to have expectations. She probably doesn't want to sit around in the apartment 24/7 with you, however beautiful and amazing and wonderful a soul you might happen to be. You know, she probably wants to go out, she probably wants to have meals, maybe she wants to go on holiday, you know, all of this kind of thing. And so then a financial pressure starts to come into it, and not necessarily, not in a mercenary way. I'm not talking about somebody who's some kind of gold digger, but it's just that what you tend to find yourself doing in relationships is that you have to make something happen you know, because you're very conscious, or many of us become very conscious of the fact that, all right, so now it's just you and me sitting here in a room. You know, we've had all the exciting, fun sex at the beginning, and we've had all the, you know, and the passion and everything, and that remains, but now we're into a sort of more normal life period, and damn, what are we going to do now? Watch more TV, you know? So you kind of have to make things happen, and making things happen costs money. So maybe you want to go out for drinks, you want to go to a nice restaurant, all that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with any of that. It's all great. I love it. It's fantastic. But what I'm saying is that's part and parcel of it. The other thing about relationships is that it's very hard to maintain mystery about yourself in a relationship, particularly in a relationship where you live together, okay? Because for obvious reasons, really, right? You're living together. So she sees you when you get up in the morning, she sees you through the day, she sees you before you go to bed at night, whatever. She's going to see you tired, she's going to see you low, she's going to see you not feeling particularly well. It's different to the sort of casual dating setup where, you know, you guys, maybe you meet up once or twice a week and you're hyped up for the date and it's super exciting and everything, and you know, everyone's on their best behavior. You're seeing, if you're living together, you're seeing each other the whole damn time, okay? And again, that could be a beautiful, wonderful thing, but it could also bring with it pressure, because nobody can be superhuman 24/7. Okay, nobody can be that guy 24/7. Okay, not even me. As hard as that is to believe, not even me. You know, it's very hard to be Troy Francis 24/7, right? You need some downtime. You need some time where you can just chill and relax, and there's no performative sense about it. Okay, it's just, it is what it is. All right. That theoretically that should be okay, because theoretically, in the context of this loving relationship, the other party should take you as you are. They should love you for what you actually are, okay? But it doesn't always work out like that, because all of us are entertainment addicts, okay? Men and women, we're all entertainment addicts, right? We want to feel something, okay? We want to feel that our partner is dramatic, is almost mythical in some way, right? You know, men do this to women, right? I don't say put them on pedestals, because I think certainly if you've been watching this material for a while, you know, we've grown out of that, okay? We understand that women are just human beings like us, but there are some women that nevertheless, you know, we kind of allow ourselves to fall into fantasy over a little bit and imagine them to have these qualities, encouraged perhaps by their physical beauty, imagine them to have these qualities that they don't always necessarily actually have, all right? Because they're just normal human beings, they're flawed, you know, maybe they're a bit boring, maybe they don't have a lot going on in their life, really, you know, under the surface. And so then they're looking to you to provide that entertainment, they're looking to you to provide that drama. But you're not capable, as is nobody on the planet, is capable of creating that excitement, creating that drama 24/7, okay? And so then what can happen, and this could happen on both sides, or it could just maybe happen on one side, or whatever, is that a sort of disappointment starts to build into it, you know, and suddenly, you know, the girl is thinking, well, hang on a minute, I thought this guy was this superhuman kind of, you know, whatever, right? This amped up archetypal hero version of himself, and now I see that 24 hours a day he's not. He's a normal guy, okay? And you know, there are fewer words less sexy in the English language than a normal regular guy, okay? These are some of the least sexy words on the planet, okay? So it's no surprise that a lot of relationships end up breaking up, or a lot of relationships end up not lasting the test of time, because relationships in the beginning are sort of built on a mutual fantasy, really. They're built on a mutual, it's as much about projection as it is about reality. We project onto the partner qualities that they don't necessarily possess, okay? Qualities that they don't necessarily have in real life. And when they fail to meet those qualities, that can be difficult on both sides, okay? And the other problem is, lack of respect can start to creep into the equation as well, because the parties, the partners can start to sort of take each other for granted, I would say. She starts to take you for granted because now you're there, you've got a set of keys, all your stuff's there, you're living with her. She doesn't see that scenario changing anytime soon. So then there's a little bit more leeway. There's a little bit more leeway to be critical. There's a little bit more leeway to not take an active interest in the things that you're interested in. There's a little bit more leeway to be a bit cutting about certain aspects of the things that you do, or certain interests that you have, or certain ambitions that you have, okay? Because what's going to stop her, right? Because the fear of you walking away has been massively, massively reduced because now you're committed, right? And of course, when you get to the point of engagement and then marriage, this is baked in. This is fully baked into the system. But even in just a sort of boyfriend-girlfriend relationship where you're living together, the respect can very quickly start to dematerialize, all right? Because there's less incentive for the person to behave themselves, because they get to a point where they think, well, I'm not going to lose this person, so I can kind of do what I want, all right? And again, this goes both ways. I'm not saying this is just a female to male thing. This could be a male to female thing as well. But it's a sad reality, and it's strange because we think of domesticity as being this wonderful, cozy, sort of safe space where everyone's happy and everyone's contented all the time. But it really isn't, or at least it isn't necessarily. I'm not ruling it out as impossible, but what I am saying is that under the surface, a lot of domesticity could be very cruel. Okay, there can be a very cruel centre to domesticity, which doesn't get talked about much, apart from in sort of 1960s British television plays and Harold Pinter and things like that. There's a cruelty under the surface in polite middle-class relationships, okay? And in the end, it's up to you whether you want to put up with that cruelty or not. There is a way out. There is a way out. You can pick up your stuff and you can walk out the door, okay? But that's not necessarily an easy thing to do for everybody, okay? So you have to decide for yourself where your boundaries are, where your dividing lines are, whether the person has been sufficiently disrespectful to make it necessary for you to take that course of action or not. I suppose all of this really is just to underline the point that relationships, so the guy who wrote to me and he's like, oh, I just want to get a girlfriend. It's like, where do you think that's going to get you? Do you really think that in itself, finally you find this woman and she's prepared to touch your, wiener and hang out with you and maybe live with you, you really think that's going to solve your life's problems? It isn't. That's where your life's problems begin, okay? Because is she going to treat you with respect, all right? Is she going to be faithful to you? Is she going to do the things that she claims that she's going to do? Or is she going to break every promise that she made to you both explicitly and implicitly and undermine the entire fabric of the supposed love that you have together, okay? And if she does all of those things and you are aware that she's doing those things, then what are you going to do then? Are you going to stay? Are you going to let her get on with it? Or are you going to go? Are you going to cut ties? Okay? And that's a decision that you're going to have to make, but that decision is very difficult for a great many men, okay? That's a situation that's very difficult for, and women as well, very, very, very difficult for people. Once you're tied in, most people find it very difficult to walk away, okay? You've got to have a certain streak of ruthlessness to just say, right, enough is enough, I'm going to go, okay? And most people don't do it. Most people don't do it for years. So this is where we get back to the solitude piece. You have to be prepared for solitude at any point. Okay, even if you're now happily in a relationship and you're like, oh, none of this matters to me because I'm with X and she's great and we're having a great time. All right, brilliant, congratulations, I'm happy for you. But at some point, things might not be so rosy, and I really hope they are. I really hope they are, genuinely. But at some point, you know, things might start to turn sour. And at that point, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit around? Are you going to take the disrespect? Or are you going to take action? Okay, and the only way you're going to be able to take action is if you are prepared to endure. And when I say endure, it's not necessarily endure. It could actually be enjoy solitude. Okay, you have to stop viewing the notion of solitude as being a prison, as being this thing that you have to endure. All right, and rather as a place where you can build out your new self. Okay, if you start to look at it like that, then the alternative, which might be staying in a situation where you are disrespected, where the other person is doing things behind your back that they shouldn't be doing, and where you know that this is toxic for you, you're going to be much less inclined to hang around in that environment. Okay, and this happens to, you know, many clients of mine, all of this kind of stuff. You've got to be prepared to relish solitude, okay? Because sometimes it's the only friends you've got, okay? Sometimes it's the only thing that you've got. And, you know, the other thing is that with solitude, you know, you get back control of your time, you get back control of your money, you get back control of your sanity, and you get the ability to work on projects that are important to you. And the only thing that's going to propel you through life really is by having something meaningful to do with your time. Okay, that's what it comes down to. So when people, you know, say, oh, I just want to find a girlfriend, it's like, okay, fine, brilliant, find it. I can help you with that. I can coach you through that process, but you're sure as hell better have something else going on in your life. It can't just be about finding the girlfriend. Okay. Because if you are pinning your hopes of happiness on that, that is a very shaky foundation, indeed. Okay. As I say, solitude, being on your own, should be the forge from which you can build your new self. All right, and it really can be. It really can be. Okay. So you got to think about it as a positive thing, and ironically, in the end, that makes you more attractive, not less attractive, because the guy who's prepared to, you know, the guy who not doesn't care, but the guy who is self-sufficient is always going to be more attractive than the guy who is sort of weak and pleading and clinging and trying to cajole his way into the affections of somebody. All right, it's very straightforward. I said in another video, you know, scarcity creates desire. Overabundance of you, of your time, of your energy, of your emotion, of your love, creates disdain or distaste or being despised. All right, simple economics. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed something in this one. I hope you got some value from it. Please do leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about this subject. Drop me an email, troy@realtroyfrancis.com if you're interested in coaching, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Bye-bye.